Thank you everyone for joining today. Lovely to see all of you again. I just wanted to give a little introduction. Stephen Botting is here with us for our hour workshop today. We're really excited to have him speak about DJing and electronic music, which is something we haven't really covered yet on our Pandion workshop, so that's exciting. Give a little new insight into a different area of the music industry. And yeah, I just wanted to give a little background on Pandion to start us off for those who are new here, maybe haven't come to a workshop yet. It looks like there's definitely familiar faces. So Pandion Music Foundation, we launched publicly in September of last year. So it's just been a few months now. We're getting started with these workshops weekly to help break down the barriers between emerging artists and industry professionals, to kind of try to reestablish a more open and accessible scene for emerging artists so that they can have more easily accessible information they might not have otherwise, especially for those who are in underprivileged or marginalized communities and might not have the resources readily available for them. So these workshops are free for everybody. And we're just trying to get rid of these kind of gatekeepers that are we often find in the industry. Just a lot of information will be secretive or not shared. And so we're really excited to be able to offer this this free resource to artists and create a little community through Pandion Music Foundation. And we are also really excited that we're going to be running an event coming up in April with 2Indie. We're partnering with them to run a really amazing event that's going to be 3 days in person, and then there's going to be also a virtual opportunity on the first day. So it's from April 10th to 12th, and it's called Syncablu, which is an LA Sync Festival. So if you haven't heard about it yet, we have a link in our bio on our Instagram page that you can check out, and I'll put it in the chat here as well. But it's going to start off on April 10th with Syncathon, which will be a song feedback marathon that can be attended virtually or in person. And then the whole event itself will include a writer's camp, collaboration and networking opportunities. So definitely check that out. The tickets are on sale now. You can buy tickets to the whole 3-day event, and then there also will be an opportunity to buy just singular a la carte tickets to specific events during the festival that will open up soon. So definitely check that out. It's on our website and also on our Instagram bio if you have access to that. Yeah, and so I guess we can get started. Stephen, now, thank you again for joining.
No.
And yeah, so Stephen has been a professional DJ for over 20 years and is an electronic music producer and composer for media for over 10 years, and has composed music for various publishers and libraries worldwide, and operates a successful DJ and entertainment company in the UK, which is where he's based. So exciting to chat with you and hear more about your career and how you got into where you are, and any tips you can share with us.
Sure, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want,
Do
yeah, if
you
you want to
want
just give a little more background on yourself, maybe to start off, how you got
to?
to where you are
Uh,
now.
I can go right back to when I was a child. Be a drummer years ago when I was in my mid-teens. So I studied percussion because as a very young age, I used to beat rhythms out with my mum's knitting needles on stools to music, and I had a bit of a rhythm. So my mum thought, wow, you know, he's doing quite well at playing drums on these stools, on these footstools. So probably about the 80s. Actually no, it was before that. It's late 70s, and then it kind of progressed from there. She bought me some drums. And then I literally went to a college, local college, to study percussion, and joined the local orchestra, playing all sorts of percussion instruments, from xylophones to snare drums and timpani, everything you can think of that's percussion, and learned that way, and passed my grades and got a grade A. The orchestra was good, but it wasn't my kind of thing. So I was sort of like 13 or 14 at the time, and it wasn't cool for me to be in the orchestra at the time. So I had a drum kit at home. There was a couple of guys that lived up the road from me. One was a guitarist, there was a bass player, and there was like a vocalist as well. And we all got together and we formed a punk band, and developed that. And then fast forward to late 80s, mid to late 80s, I decided it wasn't for me, punk music. So I was brought up on electronic music, and even a bit of funk and disco and stuff like that. So I decided to turn to drum machines and synthesizers, and then also DJing. So I mean, we're talking late 80s, so the DJing kind of thing was coming in quite strongly for me. And I left school and went to work for a speaker company called KEF, which is like, they make hi-fi speakers. So I worked there for quite a few years and met a few guys that were there. And it kind of sort of, it's unusual how it happened, but one of the guys I was really friendly with there that worked with me, he had another friend, and this is like 1989, who knew someone who's putting on these, what they call raves, which I think, in America now, they're called they're big EDM festivals, but in the late 80s, early 90s, they were called raves, and it was big in the UK at the time. And his friend was a promoter, so he was doing these raves around the south coast of England, and I did a mixtape, because obviously technology is not like it is now. So I had 2 decks and a mixer, and recorded some mixing of house music, which was coming from Chicago at the time. And then it also went into, I'd say, quite sort of breakbeat sounding music with sampled sounds from other people's records. And it was around about sort of 140 BPM. And it was massive in the UK. It was huge. And it was called rave. It was called rave music. And a lot of the DJs coming through at the time were playing this kind of music. And these big illegal festivals were going on. These big illegal raves were going on in the UK. And I happened to play quite a few of them in the south coast of England, alongside these huge DJs that were coming in from the States. Some of them were coming from, obviously, UK as well. And I was literally the first DJ on for the evening at a lot of these raves at the time. And then I'd come off, and all these big headliners would come on and take the night through till 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was pretty much every weekend. So I was doing that alongside making speakers, hi-fi speakers, during the daytime. So that developed my DJ career, to go into clubs and bars in the UK. I'd say pretty much all the way through the 90s. And then I kind of got into making music as well. So it was the mid 90s, and I literally had, there was like a magazine called Future Music. I think it was Future Music. It was one of the two, Future Music or Club On magazine. At the back, there was like a classified section. There was a guy in there that was advertising, who had a studio near London, and he was advertising to work with somebody who knew the electronic music scene at the time. So I got in contact with him, and I used to drive up there to his studio. And I had kind of like, I don't know how it happened, but from percussion, I also went on to learning how to play keyboards, and it just came from nowhere. I'm not musically trained at all. I can't even read music. I can read percussion rudiments, but not music. So I just had this ability to do that. So I'd go up there and play the keyboards while he was engineering the whole tracks. And we produced some like what they call progressive house music, which was big at the time, very electronic house music. There was DJs at the time like Sasha and John Digweed, that were huge DJs at the time. They were pioneering this kind of music, so we made some music like that, and we managed to find, I don't know how, but we managed to find a small independent label that released a track that we did called Dream State, and it was had remixes on there. Sasha was my idol DJ at the time, and he only started playing it. So that was
Cool.
the developing sort of area of my production career as well as DJing, obviously. But my production career really did develop then, and because he was behind it, so he was such a big name. So it went on his compilation album, Sasha Ibiza, Space Ibiza 013 by Global Underground. They're a big compilation album, and he featured it on there. So it went on from there to the cover mount CDs, mix CDs from various DJs on some of the biggest magazines at the time, like Ministry Magazine, and various others. And it went on to a Channel 4 documentary about clubbing in the UK as well. So that really sort of launched a few areas of production, and we looked after our own publishing because at the time the label was so small they didn't really understand any of that side of things. So I studied the areas of royalties at the time. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and I studied the royalty system, and I said to Tony, who I was working with at the time, on these tracks, I said we need to join the MCPS and PRS in the UK, so which is our performing rights organisation, and we did, and it was literally months later that the royalties started coming in, which was fantastic. But we didn't develop the project any further. We had a few other releases with a few other labels, but it kind of drifted off. So I had a bit of a lull for a good few years, but then after doing DJing in clubs and bars in my local clubs and various sort of like, all day events and stuff like that, I come out of the club scene in about 2006, because I was working for a music distribution company from 2001 to 2006. So I was selling music to like independent retailers up and down the sort of the south of England and parts of London. And then I left the company in 2006, and I thought I want to start my own DJ company, but I went into a completely different area, and I concentrated on mobile DJing at corporate events and private parties, and that was 2006. I'm still running the company today, and it was off the back of the whole of my history of DJing. I just needed something a bit more concrete, where there's longevity with the actual business model of DJing, because clubs and bars can be very good if you manage to make a name for yourself, but if you want to have something that's bringing in money regular, and there's lots of work out there, then this is why I decided to set up On Mass Productions, which is literally for private parties and corporate events, because there's so much work there. So that's kind of a bit of a history of the DJ side of things. But then there's obviously more producing now as well, so I'll tell you about that shortly. But that's how my DJ career got off the ground.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of it was kind of just like a natural progression for you, just one thing leading
Yeah,
to another, which is nice. Meeting
exactly.
people and yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's great that you were able to find like a spot in the industry where you could have more of a sustainable career after you did the initial kind of performance aspect, which is nice too.
Yeah, I mean, what it's the reason why I did it is because I wanted something that's had some kind of stability. Because I also still produce music, but now I've gone into another chapter of it. I've gone into media, so music from media is what I do now, and
Mhm.
I started that in the pandemic because the pandemic shut my business down for a year and a half. We couldn't go out and DJ. Hospitality was shut down. Bars and clubs were shut down. So I used that time to get into producing electronic music, mainly electronic music for TV.
So
And I had
was that the first time you'd gotten into production during the pandemic?
no, I've been producing for years,
Okay.
but club music, electronic music for clubs, DJing side of things. I've done that for quite a few years, mainly in the 90s. And then some of the way through I'd say 2000 upwards, I was just messing about with electronic music, uh, club music, but never really got anywhere with it after the initial project that me and Tony did as Aquila, where Sasha was playing that, and John Digweed, all the big DJs. After that, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. So getting back into producing, I just thought I don't want to do much of the club stuff anymore. I would rather do something that's mainly aimed at TV and media. So that's why I got into doing it for that purpose throughout the pandemic. So I had nothing else to do. I couldn't DJ, so
Hmm.
so I fired the studio up and got back into producing again, but aimed it at TV. So I got a few opportunities come my way, which was really good. I can tell you about them if you like, if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to hear
Yeah.
about them.
Well, what it was unusual because during the pandemic, I think it was 2020, I got a call from an old producer that I used to work with years ago in the 90s on a few underground dance projects. And he rung me and he said, "How you doing? How you coping with?" I've not heard this guy for a while. He's just out of the blue rung me, and he said, "How you getting on?" I told him my situation about I can't DJ because of the pandemic. And I asked him what he's up to, and he told me, and he said, "I make music for production music libraries, which is they license music for TV and film." And he said you should get into that because it's a nice steady income, and it can escalate. The income can escalate over the years. So I said, well, I will need some tips. So if you can give me some tips on it, then I'd appreciate it. So he did. He said, what you need to do first is you buy yourself a book by a guy called Dan Graham, who wrote the book Composer's Guide to Library Music. And he said, if you buy that book, read it from the front to the end. He said, you'll have a really good idea of how the industry works and what to do and what not to do. So I did. I bought the book. I read it. I thought, yeah, I think I can do this. I joined the Facebook group, and this is why social media, I'd say, is very important for anyone that wants to get into music, because you need to build a network. So every morning during the pandemic, I was on Facebook, I was on LinkedIn, I was adding people, and Facebook's very clever because the algorithms are set up so that if you do add people, it gives you choices to add other people in that kind of, if in industry that you're working in, or people that are associated with what you like. So all these people were coming up as suggested friends. So I was adding them all because they're all in the business. So every morning I was doing that for about half an hour and built up about 3,500 contacts on Facebook. And then I thought, well, that's what I need to do to start with. So I did that. And then I joined Dan's Facebook group. He's the guy that wrote the book, Composer's Guide to Library Music. Joined his Facebook group. added Dan as a friend as well. So I thought, well, I need to start writing some music. So I had a good listen to some of the TV cues that are out there being used in TV. They're normally about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long. I did a few electronic sort of TV cues. I posted one on Facebook as a video of me with this track I'd done. And Dan was now my friend. He accepted my friend on Facebook a while ago. He actually saw it on there, and he commented and said, "This is really nice." He said, "I love the name," because I called the name Smart Dust, and it's all in the name as well with production music, all in the name. And he said, "I really like the name." So I said, "I've got quite a few like this," and it went on from there. So he messaged me and said, "Well, send them over. This is my email address." So I sent it over to Dan, and he got in touch with me. And he said, "I really like these, but what you need to do is cut them down a bit, make sure they got edit points in the tracks, because TV editors like to be able to cut certain sections, or you only use certain sections. So if there's an edit point where the music might tail off and just go to nothing for a second and then come back in again, they like them sections because they can use certain parts of the track." He told me to do that. So I went back and re-edited the tracks, sent them over, and he said, "Yeah, how do you fancy doing a 12-track album?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So it was in the theme of kind of like, it was electronic music. So it's in the theme of like space and sort of sci-fi-ish sounding. And he said to me, why don't we do an album called Deep Science and have 12 cues that are aimed at science documentaries? So I said yes. So I did it, and they accepted it, and then I'm on my third album for them, and they're very big actually. He's got
Wow.
several labels. He's got Gothic Storm, which is a trailer label, so they do music for trailers for movies. He's got Minim and Lovely Music and various others as well. There's quite a few labels he's got under his umbrella. But I've done several for Minim, which is minimal scores. So the music's quite minimal, but it's easy to use under dialogue. That's the idea of Minim. And then Lovely Music which is the other label, is more kind of, it's a bit more involved. There's more layers of music, but still aimed at TV. So that's literally come from the pandemic, where I couldn't DJ, so I had to do something else, and it's opened up a completely new avenue, and it's going from leaps and bounds now. It's really developing.
So
So it's
cool.
there as well. I'd say a little bit of luck involved, but obviously laser focusing on what I want and what I want to do has brought these opportunities in. So it's been quite a bit of work to do it, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of and perseverance, and you need patience in production music for TV. You need to have patience, because the royalty system is set up so that all the royalties come in from TV. Your PRO collects it all over the world, so there's always a lag. Every time you do a piece of music, it gets used. There's always a lag there, so you've got to wait for the royalties to come through, and it can be anything from 2 to 3 years before you start seeing any royalties. So it's a waiting game, and you need.
Yeah, I've heard that from other musicians and artists too, that it takes a while sometimes. It's like you're in it for the long run, kind of with that, which you have to be definitely patient, it sounds.
Yeah.
The do you find that there's quite a bit, because I'm not super familiar actually with the electronic scene as much, but are there a lot of opportunity, like do you find it hard to find sync opportunities when you were first getting started with licensing and sync music? Was it harder in the electronic scene, or were these opportunities kind of just there for you?
A bit of both, really. I mean, it was quite tough to get anyone interested, but I think if you've got a good enough music, electronic music's used a lot in TV anyway. I know that the trailer side of things is a slightly different because you've got two sides of that where you have the classical orchestral sound and sound design combined. They call it hybrid. So it's a little bit of synth and it's a little bit of, and it's what I'd say more orchestral and big drums and booms and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then you got the other side of trailer music, which is all sound design. You get a lot of if you watch a lot of trailers and you see some of the horror ones, they're really mainly sort of sound design, which that's what I'm getting to at the moment. That's my next step, is doing some trailers. And it's all about big whooshes and epic slams, deep subtones and really unusual synth lines. Is the more original the better. And then you've got the TV side. So TV side can be anything from tinkly pianos, banjos to synthesizers, and some of them were just. I mean, I've seen some albums where they've just got drums, epic drums, marching drums and stuff like that. So it's very varied, and that's what I was drawn to, was the fact that you can be really experimental as a musician, because it kind of likes that. The scene, like the industry likes that. The more experimental you are, the better. As long as you don't steer off the formula. But I think if you have your own unique sound, you can go quite far in that, in the TV side and the film music side.
Yeah, that keeps it exciting. I think we have probably some producers on here right now with us actually. If you are comfortable sharing a little bit like of maybe any plugins or any of your synths that you like to use or anything like that that you could recommend to people who are getting into this.
Absolutely. I use a lot of plugins, hell of a lot of plugins, mainly plugins. I don't really use a lot of hardware gear. The reason why is because I haven't really got the room. I think as soon as I have more room, I probably will have more hardware synths. But for plugins, I use synth plugins. I use a combination. I don't use too many. I use a combination of Serum by Xepper. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a very unusual name. But it's Serum, Serum. Silenth 1. There's Pigments by Arturia, which I use quite a lot of. Diva, and trying to think, there's a few others I use. I use a lot of my own sampled sounds. I mean, I've got this. I'll just bear with me 2 seconds. I've got a field recorder. Okay. You can either use one of these. They're about, in the UK, they're about 140 pounds. They've got an SD card inside. They've got really good quality microphones, and I just record anything outside. I take it with me sometimes. If you don't want to buy one of these, you can use your iPhone, because you've got the voice recorder on your iPhone. There's a high quality setting on there, which is quite handy. I'm not sure where it is on the actual app, but it's there. There's a high quality setting which records your audio in a better quality, and I've done that quite a few times.
Cool.
What's
the brand of that field recorder there?
That one is it's a Tascam. It's a Tascam DR40X.
Cool.
Very, very good quality. It records in 24-bit, 44.1, I think, which is good quality. It's all on an SD card, so you can transfer it over to your computer as a WAV file, and you can bring it into digital audio workstation, whatever you're using. I use a combination of Ableton Live and Logic Audio, but mainly Ableton Live because I'm quick on it, so I can make stuff very quickly, which is really quite important. As long as your quality is still there, if you're getting into TV and film music, speed is quite important because you've really got to. It sounds awful, but it is pretty much a numbers game. The more you do, the better chances you have of making a living from it. As long as the quality is still there, obviously, you don't want the quality to suffer. So you've got to be good, you've got to be quick, and you've got to be good at what you do, and you've got to have good mixing knowledge as well. You've got to know your plugins as well. I use a lot of. I don't use tons of compression, but I do use compressors. But I also use a lot of saturation plugins as well to make it to perceive the perceived loudness and make certain sounds sound a bit warmer, which is quite important, just to get that sound, especially when you're working with digital, because you want to try and make it sound analog, that warm analog sound.
Yeah. Cool. Someone was asking if you could write down the plugins, so I think people might want to look them up after. You could do it after, and I can share it with the community, actually. That would be great.
The Facebook
group, that would be perfect. That would be perfect. Yeah, it's always good there's just so many out there. It's like really nice to hear what other people use, and yeah.
There's tons. I mean, I would say that a quite important thing to remember is you can get addicted to buying them and having too many, and it's a bad thing to do. You just got to pick certain ones that you think, pick certain ones that you know are good, and get to know them ones, and don't have too many, because if you have too many, you'll get lost in a world of plugins, and you won't be getting creative. You won't have time to create anything, because all you're doing is just messing about all these plugins you've bought. And the key is to get creative with them. So you want to be able to make music, not just sit there playing with plugins all day long. So as long as they serve your need, then you should be fine.
Yeah, good, definitely good advice there. You want to have some sort of track to stick on.
I went years making music and not finishing anything.
Yeah.
That can be a disaster for anyone who wants to make a living out of music. You must finish your music, and plugins can be a distraction. You don't see many of them, and then before you know it, you spend days just messing about with plugins and no music's getting made. So always just use what you can if it serves your need for what you're using it for, and then just finish your music and get it out there, because sooner or later what will happen with it, if you don't get it out there in the wide world, the big wide world, then it's never going to do anything. So if it's sitting on your hard drive because you're not confident about it or something like that, or you've just been spending too long messing about with plugins, you're not learning how to use them properly, then you're never gonna create anything. So definitely definitely an important thing to have some plugins, but at the same time learn how to use the ones you've got. Don't have too many.
Definitely. Jana asked what you're most inspired by in the electronic genre.
Inspirations, I'd say right back to I'd say going back to when I was a kid. I used to listen to a lot of Jean-Michel Jarre and Kraftwerk, and also Tangerine Dream. But that's going right back to the 70s. They were in the 70s. And then other inspirations were, I'd say, more synth pop of the 80s as well, and then obviously the house scene from the late 80s onwards as well. So inspired by that, But I also I say there's a lot of electronic music composers like Philip Glass and Brian Eno that I like as well. So that's where my TV and media side comes in, because I used to listen to a lot of Brian Eno, and he's great. I love his stuff. And then more modern times, John Hopkins is the one to watch as well. He's a fantastic electronic music composer. Who's had various albums out over the years, and yeah, so they're my main inspirations.
Cool. Joan's asking, do you hear much in the way of lo-fi music?
Do I hear much, or do I know
Yeah,
much?
is that are you asking, sorry, could you maybe clarify that, Joan? Is it like common in sync licensing, or is that what you're asking? Let's see. Is there a market for it?
Or like lo-fi?
Yeah,
Yeah,
lo-fi music.
there is a big market for it. If you like lo-fi hip hop, they call it lo-fi down tempo hip hop. The market is mainly on YouTube, to be fair.
Oh,
If you look at YouTube, put in lo-fi down tempo, you'll find a lot of these playlists and these long mixes they're put together on YouTube, and it's kind of like developed for like students for studying. It helps them unwind and helps them relax a bit while they're studying, and that's why it's a big market. And if you can get some music on one of these big YouTube channels, there's money there, because a lot of these big YouTube channels have advertising revenue that they're clawing in. So if you're lucky enough to know about YouTube Content ID, then that's a royalty, because these big channels are making revenue from advertising. And if your music's on there, then you should be getting some money. And Content ID, YouTube Content ID will actually collect that for you.
cool. Yeah,
So yeah,
is that a harder place to like to navigate the licenses for YouTube? Or is it pretty standard as long as you know what to look for there?
what with Content ID, you mean, or
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah?
getting those royalties, like actually collecting
I
them
don't
from
think
YouTube.
it's quite hard actually to get it from YouTube. I think you'd probably better off going through a third party that may take a percentage to collect it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, companies out there to do it. I've not dealt with them, but I have a company here in the UK called Label Works that have over the years have specialised in distributing dance music for dance labels, club electronic dance music labels, and they can collect it for you. So when you release music through them as a I think you'd probably call it a digital aggregator, like distributor, and you'd have a label, and then when the label works box that says YouTube revenue, and that's Content ID basically, so that they can collect it for you, but they would take a cut, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
One,
Yeah, it
one
seems
way,
sometimes that's worth it so that you don't
yeah.
have to do it yourself. Yeah.
So Stephen, sometimes in our groups we have conversations about the YouTube Content ID, and the big question is, does that cause a problem for sometimes the agencies or the supervisors that are trying to license your music? Could there be some legal aspect when you have the Content ID on for your music and it runs into a problem at all? Have you ever
Yeah.
had any issues with that?
I think if you're, it all depends. If you're dealing with a publisher, or say like you've got a piece of music and you've gone through, like I have, a few production library labels, they'll have that set up anyway, so that collect that for you if you're releasing music through them. Do you understand what I mean? They'll have the content ID system set up anyway with YouTube,
Right.
or Google, because they own
So
YouTube. So
you should check, maybe everyone should check with their publisher, if they have a publisher for that song, and just make
exactly,
sure, right, that
that's
who's
exactly right.
going to claim it. Okay.
Even if they release music through a label, if they get signed by a label, I mean, it all depends on how big the label are. If it's a big independent or major, they'll know about all that anyway. So that's another revenue stream for labels and artists. So they'll have that in place. Some of the smaller independent labels may not know anything about it, or they might not know how to do it. So it's worth checking, because it's a big part of the business for earning money.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you for that.
If anyone else has questions, please pop them in the chat here, or you're welcome to jump on and ask directly. Yeah, I'd love to know what are you working on right now, Stephen? Anything?
I've just finished an album for Minim, who I was talking about earlier on, Dan Graham's labels, which is aimed at psychedelic medicine documentaries.
Wow. That's pretty specific.
12 TV cues aimed at that. But I've also I'll just switch this on a minute. Just bear with me 2 seconds. I'm also doing a trailer piece of music.
Cool.
My screensaver's kicked in, so I've got it on here. Do you want to have a quick listen?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's very scary. Okay, it's aimed at horror films. I've called it Voodoo Doll.
Cool.
And it's about 1 minute 50, I think. So it's my very first attempt at doing a trailer. So I'm quite nervous about playing it, but I'm going to play it to you anyway.
Oh, thank you.
Trailer music is developed in what they call 3 acts. So you've got Act 1, which is very, very more laid back and very quite distant and very sparse. And then it builds into Act 2, and it gets a bit more big. And Act 3 is a little bit more developed and a lot more going on. And then you've got the outro. So I'm just going to play it to you now.
Cool.
People, they turn off on their own when they're not being used. So I've just got to.
Oh, no worries.
Can you hear that okay? Yeah?
Not really, actually. Are other people hearing it okay? I'm not hearing anything, actually, which is
No, maybe you have to change your settings, Stephen.
Sorry?
Yeah, we're not hearing it. I wonder if it's not picking up anything. Yeah.
Because it's
The mics.
Yeah, it's because the mic's not wired up to the computer. It's a shame. What
Yeah.
I do is when I've done it, I can probably put it on. It's 50% done. It's not 100%. But once it's been kind of got to a stage where it's listenable, I'll post a link on the Facebook group.
That would be great. Yes, please do. Yeah, it's a private Facebook group too, so it'll be just our smaller community there. Yeah.
SoundCloud. I can listen to it on there.
Great.
So I'll do that because you'll hear it better.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Cool. Are the projects you're doing right now, are they usually you're getting from your label, they're asking you to do specific things, or yeah.
Most with them are, this one here wasn't. That's me having a go at doing a trailer.
Okay, cool.
But that's my own kind of, my own thing, which once it's done, I will pitch it to some publishers.
Mm.
Most of the stuff I had back in 2021, I also did some music in the style of tropical pop for a UK based production music label called Loaded. I sent them some tracks in that kind of style, and they said, "Oh, can you do us an album of that?" And I went, "Yeah, no problem." So I did, and I've had one of the tracks off the album has been used 14 times by the BBC.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's awesome.
so that's how it can develop, and how it can happen for you if you can study the way that, if you are into making music for TV and media, then yeah, I mean, it's it can, you need to study you need to listen to a lot of music in TV. So even if you're watching Netflix, if you're watching something on Netflix, just listen to the music. So yeah, if you want to get into that side of things, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's the research, which it's pretty fun research to do. Listen to music on Netflix.
Whether you're doing stuff as an artist, and you want to have a record deal or something as an artist, if you're a rapper and you're making hip hop, or if you're doing indie, if you're doing whatever you're doing, it's listen to as much music as possible, see how it's developed, how it's made, how it's arranged. Obviously don't copy people. I mean, you can be influenced by people, but don't literally copy their sound, because you've got to have a unique sound, I think. I mean, I made that mistake over the years when I was trying to be an artist. I was trying to sound like everybody else, and it doesn't really benefit you to do that. You've got to have, especially with electronic music in clubs. If you're getting into the club side of electronic music, you've got to have a unique sound, and you've got to have your own sound. I struggled to do that. I just couldn't find my own sound, because I wanted to sound like everybody else all the time. It was my downfall, and so that's why I got into TV music, because it just sits better with me. I can be much more experimental. You don't really have to follow the trends as such, but trailers, you do kind of need to keep in with the trends, but you can still be very experimental with it. And that's why I chose this side. It's a tough industry, but it's I think if you're focused enough, then you will see some developments, and you will see some progress. 100%. Just got to focus on it. Yeah,
that's good to hear. Always nice to hear that. A little inspiration, because yeah, sometimes it can be hard, so it's nice to hear other people who have found success and how they've done it. Yeah.
It's particularly hard to earn any money from it to start with.
Yeah.
It is.
Gotta stick with it.
Yeah. You have to have patience. If you haven't got patience, then it's probably not the business for you.
Yeah.
You got to be patient.
Yeah. Well, we're already at the end of our hour pretty much here, which is wild. It always runs by so fast. But thank you so much. This has been great. And thank you for doing the Ask Me Anything. So anybody who wants to ask follow-up questions or specific questions for Stephen, you can just do that on our Facebook group, The Creators Circle, where we'll be doing those AMAs until Friday. So feel free to drop questions in there, and maybe we could hear more of those plugins. I'm sure people would love to hear that. So
thank you, Stephen.
That's it.
Thank you, Stephen.
So much.
Yeah, that was really great. Keep in touch.
Coming up on the bottom of the screen. No problem.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of the trailer music.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, can't wait to hear that when it's ready.
group as well. I'll get on there and jump on there and be active on there as much as I can.
Great. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you,
No worries.
Thank you, everyone, for
Talk
showing up today.
soon. Thank
Have
you.
a great, beautiful day.
Bye.
You too. Bye.